Joining us now with his reaction, the congressman representing the Lone Star State's 4th Congressional District, Congressman Pat Fallon. Mr. Congressman, has there ever been a more incompetent administration than this one?
Well, Natalie, I think this is a lot like Jimmy Carter 2.0. The fact of the matter is that President Trump had a plan to withdraw from Afghanistan, but it was conditions-based. It said, you know, the Taliban has to cut all ties with al-Qaeda, honor the provincial capitals and the roadblocks from the Afghani army and government, work with the Afghani government on power sharing agreement, and not harm any American troops. If those conditions were met, then we would eventually draw down and leave. But when Joe Biden took over, he made it a date certain. It was May 1st, and then he slipped it to August 31st, and he allowed the Taliban to move, to take that date, that arbitrary date that he selected, and make it a red line in the sand. And the Taliban understand strength, and they also understand weakness. And that's what Joe Biden was projecting.
Well, and the fact that we're listening to all of these different hearings going on, and there's no recognition on Antony Blinken's face of what this means. The fact that they have billions of dollars worth of our equipment, the fact that Americans, that we keep wanting to know the exact number. It's fluid, you know, we're working on it. Why don't they seem to understand these are American citizens there? This is American equipment. They really think we're all just going to let this go away?
Well, it's hard for me to swallow and believe that the Secretary of State for the United States of America is unaware of Americans being harmed in Afghanistan. It's hard for me to swallow. Furthermore, Natalie, we have been asking our office, and I think scores of others, if not hundreds of other members of Congress, have been asking this administration for a detailed accounting and inventory of the equipment left behind and the value of that equipment. We have yet to hear anything back. We have been asking for months now how many Americans are in Afghanistan, how many of our SIVs, the folks that risk their lives for our mission for liberty and freedom, that want to get out, how many are left? We still don't have answers, and that is incredibly troubling.
Why do you think Lloyd Austin didn't show up today? Do you think he just didn't want the optics of us pulling sound bites and showing just how incompetent they are?
You know, it's hard to say, but they should show up, and they should show up in person. Nothing is more important right now. We're talking about American lives and American treasure. And the last thing the American taxpayer wants is to be, paying for equipment and arming the Taliban. The Taliban's Air Force right now is larger than that of New Zealand's, and they have more Black Hawk helicopters than Australia. So yeah, this is not, and I think there's been reports of them couriering some of the higher tech equipment that was left behind to Iran and China for China to reverse engineer. This is an absolute unmitigated disaster. And for Blinken to call it, and let me quote, an extraordinary and successful endeavor. Well, tell that, Mr. Secretary, to the 13 new Gold Star families we have here in America. I don't think that was a successful endeavor.
And Riley McCollum's baby was just born yesterday. When you think about the loss of life, the fact that he wasn't there to actually see it, it's just the fact that the Democrats don't care. Now, some in the hearings, they're trying to act like they care now, that this is disgraceful. But how much is optics? They're just trying to distance themselves from the failures of the Biden administration, but they're going to let them get away with it. There's going to be no accountability or subpoenas in terms of making these people testify.
We had, Natalie, a classified briefing a few weeks ago before the attack on our military troops. And we were told that there was a credible threat from ISIS-K, and obviously we wouldn't have been talking about it now had it not actually happened, which it did, unfortunately, and we lost 13 of our own. But in that classified briefing, the Republican members were furious. We were demanding answers. But I'll have to tell you that about half of the Democratic members were demanding answers, and they were furious. But that was in a private classified setting. Not many of them then left that setting and then publicly questioned. And we should always hold any administration to account. And we're a co-equal branch of government. And when we ask reasonable questions, we should not be ignored. And unfortunately, the Biden administration is ignoring us completely as if we don't exist.
And the media, they've covered it somewhat, but again, you always wonder what's optically going on. Is it just that they've seen the polls, just like the Democrats have seen the polls, and they realize the majority of Americans are still outraged, they still want answers, so they're just going to pretend to be outraged too, but they really don't truly care like you do in terms of wanting to get answers, wanting to get justice for these families?
Well, you know what? You can show how much you care by your actions and not your words. So that's why I want people to call them out on the carpet. And there are 7 Democrats that are in Congress right now, and they're representing districts where President Trump won. So they better, if they want to come back, if they want to have even a chance to come back, I think a lot of them won't, but because I think the electorate has had enough, and we're going to see a massive tsunami electorally come November of next year, and I pray that that's actually the case. But we have to put America first. We have to put American lives first, and we have to put American safety first, because if you're not safe, then you're not free, and that's our most important job as members of Congress.
You're so right, and we're sending aid now to Afghanistan instead of aiding people that are actually there, our own citizens, thousands of green card holders. We've started a refugee crisis. There's so many effects that we're going to be living for a very long time, and it's so sad to see this never had to happen. Mr. Congressman, thank you for what you're doing out there, trying to get the truth out to the American people and the world, because we do deserve justice in this.
Amen. Thanks, Natalie, and God bless.
God bless you. Keep us posted.